have with us Saugata Gupta. Saugata, more than 30 years in the FMCG space. Tell us about some of your memories. You just told me about, spending the entire night in a studio where Shankar Mahadevan was singing.
If you look at my first 9 years, and I was with Cadbury's, and I think at the most memorable time, I was a part of the Cadbury's Dairy Milk campaign, that entire Real Taste of Life, which is I think one of the most iconic campaigns. I was lucky enough to be the brand manager that time. And I think this entire Cadbury's was an extremely great learning journey and a fun journey. So I've always believed that whatever you do in life, you need to be good at. At the same time, you must enjoy doing it. Of course, I did do a 3-year getting out of FMCG, but
yes,
I think the learning which I had in ICICI was enormous. I was fortunate enough to get into a CX at a very early age. I was 32. And I think the learning, and that was a flavor of a startup in the sense that we had got the license for the insurance company. It was and therefore in those days, I think I would say that early in my life, I did have so-called startup experience.
Your experience and your conversations with Mr. Mariwala, how are they?
One of the best things that Harsh realized early in the days, that how do you develop an organization in terms of, there were two things. One, a great culture, a great talent management. The second thing is, of course, what, which is very unique to Marico, is even before all the CSR laws came, we had a purpose that how do you have win-win relationships and make a difference to all the stakeholders around us. And therefore, there was a belief in conscious capitalism. We started investing behind this. I think it has been one of the most successful examples of a professionalization of an organization. And this is something which will continue.
When you look at these new age D2C companies, so to say, which you, I believe, have been the only listed company to be championing the cause of this right from day one and still have made the largest number of acquisitions. A lot of the others have obviously followed suit too. How do you value these companies? That's a question that, perpetually perplexes the street.
So I think firstly, we look at the promoter, or a founder. So we look for promoters who want to build a company for building to last rather than building to sell. And I think it's important because the chemistry is extremely important. The second thing is the offering itself. Is the offering differentiated enough? I'm not a me too, and it is fulfilling an unmet need in this one. The third thing, we now have a very sophisticated unit economics model, and I was telling somebody this, that we can almost smell it in terms of, we have something called a digital quotient, we have certain metrics which we have run, and based on our learnings from Beardo and other things, okay? Right. And I think, and lastly, one of the things we look at is that since we started with a minority stake in Beardo, we now have been taking majority stakes, but we ensured that is enough on the table for the promoter to partner with us. Our job is to help him or her succeed and realize his or her full potential. One of the great things that has happened is that our learning has been somewhere we have been able to transfer some of the learnings into a core. And I believe that we are fairly digitally savvy. And I think it's not about just throwing money there, but how do I add value?
So at what point do you plan to take these digital first brands into your own distribution, muscle, and then perhaps scale them at a much rapid pace? Do you have any metric for that?
So ideally, unless it crosses 100, 150 crores, we shouldn't move over to the GT. In food, it's different because in food, I don't think because of the lower AOVs, it's very difficult to have a completely digital model.
Right.
See, in India, it's very easy to so-called launch in GT and show numbers in the first 1 or 2 years. The question is that how do you have a repeatable model of driving offtakes? And if you look at especially personal care for, if you look at the retention rates or loyalty for existing brands are pretty high. It's not easy to scale up something so quickly. The other thing which is very important is this, that digital brands, what are the 3 big sources of competitive advantage a digital brand has? The first thing is obviously ability to have far more high velocity innovation, significant agility, and ability to handle multiple SKUs. For example, a digital brand hero SKU will be a kind of a tail SKU for a core kind of a business. And the fourth thing is very, very high competence in digital marketing. Now, all these competencies, when you get into GT, are no longer differentiated competencies, because the competencies required are different. And therefore companies like us obviously have a far higher right to win. And therefore it is extremely critical first to drive scale in what I call maybe e-com and little bit of a limited this one before even starting to do GT. The temptation to do GTs will be very high. Our GT system, digital brand will be item number 40 on focus, and therefore it may be important, and that is the current thought we have, is that if you look at, we will have a house of brands, maybe 3, 4, maybe another 2, 3 years, another 1 or 2, because we are constantly looking at M&A. I would then almost have a situation where I almost set up a Marico engine 2 with a house of brand with its own distribution system.
Let's spend a little time on your core itself. You said that Saffola is an under-leveraged brand and you wanted to leverage it a lot more, which is why the food foray that happened. As Parachute grows, do you think there is space for you to have more products under the Parachute umbrella and just get into categories which you haven't been there using the brand positioning of Parachute?
So Parachute Advanced Master Brand stands for, goodness of coconut. It's natural. We have had obviously some kind of a diversification in Bangladesh market where we have Parachute Advanced is into shampoo. It endorses a baby brand. And we are looking at how successful it is. So far it has, the results are encouraging. So therefore, we are open to that idea, definitely.
Value-added hair oils. I've seen your strategy there. It looks like you're doing a lot more at the premium end in the value-added hair oil space. How do you see this space emerging going forward and contributing to your business?
So I think the reason we are driving this is that if we look at 2010 to 2016-17 journey, there's a lot have happened through Amla, where we were a 9% player. Today we are a market leader. I think it's been a phenomenal case study of disruption of a leader. Having said that, I think we have a issue where our value share is the volume share difference is 9%.
Right.
And therefore we haven't done a great job in the premiumization agenda, which we want to do. If you look at the vectors, one is the sensorial vector, where upgradation happens. The other vector of upgradation is problem solving, which is currently hair fall. There could be tomorrow anti-graying. And therefore we intend to, play a much bigger role there. We have been now gaining value share for 3 years in a row, and we intend to accelerate that process and bridge the gap between volume and value share. We believe that, a certain section at the upper socioeconomic class would require much more modern formats. And if you look at, there is serum at one end, and perhaps there could be things far more sensorially better, hair oils, which can come. We are also experimenting with some of them in the Middle East, and therefore we would like to have much more innovation in that area and accelerate that process.
You have been taking your learnings from Bangladesh into Vietnam and some other countries as well. How big do you think these countries could be going forward?
There were 2 concentration risks in the international business. The first of all was dependence on Bangladesh, and the second, within Bangladesh, dependence on Parachute coconut oil. Yes. We have significantly reduced first concentration, because today, the last couple of years, Vietnam has been growing significantly. Today it makes double-digit EBITDA growth. Similarly, I think Middle East, the entire, if you look at the profit pool and the revenue pool available, we are a challenger there. I think one of the things we have done in international business very well, when in 2014 it got integrated into the India business, it had a single-digit EBITDA. Today it has a 20% plus EBITDA, and it makes, more, if not equal, some quarters it makes more operating margin in India business. I think our focus has been entirely on building organic growth capability. A lot of companies try just acquisitions. I firmly believe that acquisition has to be an accelerator and top up. It can never be a substitute or an escape button for not doing organic growth. And therefore we have systematically built up capabilities in portfolio, go-to-market, cost structure, and people make a significant difference, because we are not a true-blooded multinational where we replicate process, system, and brands. Yeah. We go global in every market. And therefore, we have done it systematically, and therefore, after the Bangladesh success, we have replicated it in Vietnam. We now want to replicate it in Middle East and North Africa. And now we are slowly growing in other parts of Africa. Even in South Africa, for example, it's a very, very tough market in terms of, the overall economic growth and other things, but we have been able to grow at double digits. So I think one of the things is that international business has been quite a bit of what I call a steady ship. There are no surprises. Last 9-10 quarters, we have delivered double-digit growth, except one quarter we gave 9%, but I think it's been consistent there.
So, when we talk about Marico of the future, we spoke in FY18, now we're speaking in FY23, where your revenues have jumped from 6,000 crores to 10,000 crores. Assuming you grow at the same pace as your medium-term objective, by FY28, you would be 20,000 crores on the top line. What does your revenue then look like? What do your margins then look like?
Okay, so we should be crossing 10,000 this year.
Yes.
Now, I think it's very difficult in today's world. It's full of complexity, volatility.
But you had that foresight. You had that foresight 5 years ago, so I presume you do now.
No, I think world has changed. Okay, so instead of giving a kind of a number to it, all I can say is two things. One is that we have to be always top quartile in terms of growth. And we are fortunate to be participating in emerging markets, and therefore in emerging markets, volume growth is extremely important, protection of market share is extremely important. For us, we will never compromise volume growth and market share for the sake of margins. Margins will automatically happen, it will start creeping up. Secondly, I think one of the things we still have to do, while we have done well in food and digital, I think we need to up the ante on our personal care innovation rate in India. It has been much more successful international business when you have to do that. Continuously, I think while we need to do a full potential of the core, there's significant headroom for the core. How do we continuously diversify our business? We produce great talent, culture. We have done great work on diversity. So I would say we want to be one of the, what I call, most admired Indian multinational FMCG companies and delivering consistent growth.
You've been here for 20 years, 10 years at the helm. Do you think a lot about legacy these days?
So I think it's important for anybody who has done to leave a legacy. I think, as I said, that my legacy would be a future-ready Marico. In terms of, as I said, there are 4 Ds which we talk about: diversification, best-in-class in distribution. I think progressively a company which is far more ready for facing the digital world. And lastly, I think on the last D is on diversity. We have made significant strides in gender diversity, thought diversity. We now have in our board 3 women. This one in my top team, we have 2. We have got a significant localization of management. We now don't run international businesses with expats.
I'll name a company. You tell me the one thing that you can learn from them. Just the one thing, all right? Godrej Consumer?
I think innovation.
Lovely. Britannia?
I think they have done an amazing journey in driving efficiency, distribution, profitability, scale.
Nestle?
Amazingly consistent results. And I think in Suresh's leadership and a complete change of the way of working. And
the new age companies, Mama Earth?
I think it's one company which has been successfully scaled up. So.
Any other company that I may have missed that you learned a lot from?
I think we learn a lot from companies like Asian Paints, in terms of, driving a lot of supply chain automation, how they have used this. Asian Paints is a very interesting company to learn, I think, and the way they have been able to successfully entrench leadership. I think it's a great learning for them.
Have you started thinking about the book that you wanted to write?
It's not getting time. Someday I will definitely write a book.
And have you gotten any better at singing?
Still terrible.
Or playing the keyboard?
As I said, that those are maybe just hobbies, you just dabble in.
What keeps you coming here every day after 20 years?
I think, as I said, that there's still an unfinished agenda. I do something which I believe I'm somewhat good at, and I love doing it. For me personally, my biggest satisfaction, other than leaving a legacy of creating a Maggi tomorrow, is that how many future CEOs I have mentored. And I'm very happy that some of the team members who have worked with me in the past are doing extremely well. I'm very proud of it. And to me, that's my biggest success, because a job of a leader is to create more leaders and not followers.
Wow, lovely. There's a lot more spiritual, a lot more philosophical, and a lot more thoughtful, Saugata. Thank you so much, Saugata.
Thank you.
Always a pleasure speaking with you.